A very good evening and welcome to the big picture, where the big focus, of course, is on Bihar and the exit poll figures. The five-phase polls have concluded, with exit polls predicting a close fight between the BJP-led NDA and, of course, the JDU-RJD Congress combined. However, a majority of the polls give the Grand Alliance an edge over the NDA. In fact, the India Today Cicero poll has predicted an average of 120 seats for the NDA and a close 117 for the Grand Alliance. The India TV and C voter have forecast 122, 133 to 132 seats for the JDU and led alliance and 101 to 121 for the NDA. The Nielsen ABP News survey also gives an edge to the Grand Alliance. But it's only the Chanakya News 24 poll that gives the NDA a majority in the assembly with 155 seats. Well, helping us understand the significance of these numbers, we have in the studio Catch News editor Bharat Bhushan joining us. We also have senior journalist Ambikanand Sahay joining us here in the studio. And we also have Sanjay Kumar, fellow CSDS, joining us from the capital. And from Patna, we've got political analyst Nawal Kishore Chaudhary. If I could start with you, Mr. Sahay, these exit polls, just a while back when I spoke to Mr. Bhushan, he said, I'm going to wait for the 8th, not putting my money on any. But would you go by any of these numbers?
I entirely agree with Bharat. See, my first point is, psephology is not a science. H2O makes water. It will make water on the moon also and on the Mars if H2O is available. Now, psephology goes by assumptions and presumptions and interviews with voters who are just exiting out of the polling booths. Now, that's a study. I agree. But time and again, I have noticed that opinion polls and exit polls also go wrong. I may also go wrong.
That's right.
But
yeah.
I rely more on the traditional conservative style of reporting. Reporters who go to the ground, have a feel, and then report. And the first lesson they learn is, before putting pen on paper, cross-check your facts 100 times, okay? And knowing Bihar and knowing India, I am sorry to say, all of us don't say what is in our mind.
Absolutely.
We don't speak out the truth.
Yes.
It's quite possible I vote for the BJP and say I am a supporter of Lalu Yadav. That's possible. So there are chances these things can go wrong, and often they go wrong.
All right. And we saw that in Delhi. We saw that the numbers were showing it
Except
going either
for
way.
one,
Yes.
Today also, it's 5:2.
Yes.
So whom do we trust? Whom do we believe?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't say they are making wrong efforts, but then it is not a science. It can never be taken as a gospel.
But we do see political parties reacting to it. We also have, Lalu Prasad, who's assuring that they are going to get 190 seats. It doesn't matter whether the RJD does well or not. Nitish is the chief ministerial figure, and he is going to remain so. RJD is not going to change its stand. That's what Lalu is saying. And we have Amit Shah, who himself has said that he is going by today Chanakya's numbers, saying that they are going to get 155 seats.
But they would say that, wouldn't they? I mean, you wouldn't expect Mr. Lalu Yadav to say that we are not doing well, nor would you expect Amit Shah to say we are not doing well. Now, as Mr. Sahay says, psephology may not be an exact science, but Dr. Sanjay Kumar is with us. He's a psephologist.
Yes.
He's been in this business long enough. If you have, it is social science. If you have, your sample is right, your questions are right, you make allowances for where things go wrong.
Yes.
Psephology is a perfectly valid way of trying to assess what is happening. So I wouldn't run down psephology completely.
Yes.
But I would say in India, because of the complications that exist in terms of caste, in terms of religion, in terms of income levels, in terms of people lying in response to questions. Once you account for all those, I suppose you can get some kind of a result which is approximation of the truth. But we've seen psephologists go wrong so often that people don't tend to believe them. They become like astrologers.
That's right. Mr. Sanjay Kumar, if I could come to you, looking at these numbers, of course, what is your indication? I mean, what do you think eventually we're going to be seeing on the 8th of November?
See, what we are going to see on the 8th of November will be known only on the 8th of November. But I wanted to say something about the debate with which you began.
Yes.
That psephology always go wrong or mostly go wrong. We actually have this impression, we don't put the figures together. Actually, I have looked at all the polls, all the exit polls which came up during last 5 years, all the assembly polls, and look at the performance. This article was published in Hindu in the name of an opinion on polls. And if you would be surprised to look at the accuracy rate. It's just a kind of a perception that mostly opinion poll and exit poll go wrong. We should not be judging the results with the opinion poll which was conducted say 2 or 3 months before election. Yes, but we should judge the actual results with the exit poll, because after exit poll the opinion of the voter doesn't change. So I would strongly counter the view that the perception that opinion poll always goes wrong, exit poll always goes wrong. That's not the truth. But let's put the figure together and then find it out.
Okay, so looking, of course, at the indications that we're getting so far, it is going to be a close contest, which I think a lot of us did expect. But, Mr. Nawal Kishore, you, of course, have been, you're in the heart of the action. You're in Patna. You've been there. You've been, in fact, sharing your views with us for days now. What the indications we're getting is that the first 2 phases were pretty much the grand alliances. Then the next 2 phases perhaps went towards the NDA. So the 5th phase is what's going to be crucial. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Now, what you get out of these exit polls, I have been telling you on this channel exactly the same thing. One thing is very clearly emerging from these results, that there is a close fight. Even if you try to get an average of these opinion polls, which is not the right way to know the truth, I'm sure, you get a picture which is very close to what I've been saying. There is neck-to-neck fight, very close fight between the 2 major political formations, namely NDA and Grand Alliance. It is as clear as you could see it in the results. So far as the Sapology is concerned, while I do appreciate the skepticism about its accuracy, one shouldn't be denying the fact that many a time these exit poll results have proved right. So it does give you some kind of indication, and from the ground reality, whatever I know about the actual facts on the ground, I've been interacting a lot of people around and using my theoretical understanding of the situation. I am of the opinion that this fight is going to be very close, and it's very difficult to say which way it is going. Because in the first 2 rounds, this Grand Alliance did have some advantage, and third, fourth, you rightly say that this NDA has an advantage, but a turning point came with the statement of RSS chief, and this went against NDA, and the damage was sought to be at least controlled or to be undone by no less a person than the Prime Minister himself, clarifying his stand on reservations and also introducing an element relating to 5% quota to a particular community, meaning thereby a Muslim community, and trying to divide the whole community into 2, whole society into 2 camps. So it's very difficult to say at this moment, finally, which way this result is going to be. And I understand that both sides are, whatever they say openly, they are not very sure whether they are going to have the majority and going to form the government.
All right. Mr. Ambikanand, talking about, of course, both of these alliances, both of these, these bipolar contests in the sense that we saw, for whom is it a bigger of a prestige issue?
Well, that's a very pointed question. I think both of them are under huge pressure. Should the NDA lose, they need to explain a lot. They burnt midnight oil. They worked so hard. I have never seen prime ministers campaigning like this in a state election. And I don't agree with the theory that Delhi will not be affected by the Bihar results. I just don't. Likewise, should Lalu and Nitish lose, it's a battle for their existence. I don't know what will they do from here on. But another thing, Bharat was saying that psephology being a social science, fine, okay. Now recently you saw Panchayat election results in UP. Now Bihar and UP, particularly Eastern UP societies, are more or less similar. I don't believe that you will have a different kind of result in next door UP and a different one here. In the Lok Sabha elections, when the BJP swept UP, they swept Bihar also. So this is just a pointer at the grassroots level. But I refuse to predict things.
Yes, yes.
But both the players will be under huge pressure, and Delhi is bound to get affected.
Yes.
It will set the future course.
And already we are seeing a lot of BJP leaders, Mr. Bhushan, BJP leaders now coming out saying that, if at all we see, the BJP not doing well, it is not going to be the Prime Minister's responsibility. He cannot take the blame. He is just asked by the party to go give speeches, and that's what he's done. That was his duty. Already you're seeing some sort of, responses like that. Give us a sense of how big of a disappointment could this be just for the Modi government, for Modi himself, if in a scenario where Nitish and Lalu, of course, triumph.
First of all, it's wrong to say that Mr. Modi has not put his prestige on line. He has. They didn't have a chief ministerial candidate, or you could say they had so many chief ministerial candidates that they couldn't project any one of them because that would lead to factional fights. So he projected himself and pitted himself against Nitish Kumar. So if he loses, his prestige will be eroded. If he wins, it will be enhanced.
Yes.
But to my mind, what will matter is what is the margin of victory or defeat. If the BJP wins by a huge margin, or if it gets defeated by a huge margin, in both cases, I think extremism will grow in the country. If it's a close fight, 52-48,
Yes.
51-49, then I think the result will have a moderating influence on the government at the center. Big victory for BJP would be claimed by the RSS. They would say, we worked for you.
Yes.
All our strategies worked. So RSS agenda will find prominence. If it's a big defeat, then they will go for more divisive tactics. Then you might see the government going for uniform civil code, finding ways of building the temple, polarizing. Because what will be on their mind then will be 2019. A huge defeat now means 2019. Modi's chances go down that much.
That's right.
A big victory now means he gets another 5 years. But that's how they will look at it. So it will have an impact on Mr. Modi, his future, his government's future, his reform agenda. Because if they lose Bihar, and if the same thing happens...
It could affect the winter session of how things could play out
Not
there.
only winter session, it will affect elections in other states. And that will affect their numbers in the Rajya Sabha, where they are in a minority. In which case, they would again, their reform agenda will be blocked. But if the opposition wins, I personally believe reform agenda will move forward, because once the opposition knows that they are back in the game, political game, there's hope for them, and there isn't a Modi tsunami in the country, they may be more willing to pass GST and cooperate with the government on various economic issues.
Okay, that's interesting. Mr. Sanjay Kumar, talking about the issues really on what voters have, stressed on, your overall sense of these 5 phases, how much of the caste issue do you think has played a factor in the votes there, or has it been development?
See, right from the beginning, there has been a talk that whether development is going to matter in this election or caste identity will matter more in this election. Actually, when we did the study in 2010 and also the present study which we are still undertaking, it is very, very clear that in this election, caste identity was more pronounced compared to what we saw in the 2010 election. So yes, nobody would say in a survey setting when you go and ask the voters whether you are voting for on the issue of development or on the issue of caste, people would generally tend to say, no, development is important to us, we'll vote for development. But if we look at the results carefully, if we analyze the results carefully, there is a clear indication that caste has come back in this election in a much, much bigger way compared to what we have seen in the 2014 Lok Sabha election or what we saw in 2010 elections.
That's right. Mr. Nawal Kishore, talking about the campaigning of these two big alliances, these two fronts, Mr. Bhushan and I were just talking earlier about how the JDU, RJD, the Mahagathbandhan, in fact, has been quite consistent. The anti-Modi, anti-NDA tune that they've been singing, they were quite consistent in all these phases of campaigning. However, the NDA we saw was shifting from one topic to the other. If at all, do you think this could be their undoing?
Yes, absolutely. Probably NDA didn't have a strategy worked out in advance which could be consistent throughout the polling period or the election period. You'll find initially they started with this development. The main focus was development. Yes, there was a mention of caste and also some use of religion card. But in general, the focus was on development. But as I have told you, with the statement of RSS chief Bhagwat on reservation, NDA, particularly BJP, had got into a defensive mode. And they thought that Bihar being a feudal or semi-feudal state, caste being a reality, and particularly when there are no large issues, national issues, as you see during the period of JP movement, where castes and religion all give way to one thing, you have to accept that caste plays a role, particularly when Lalu Yadav ji started exhorting his Yadavas coming and fighting. Remember that rally which was also attended by Mrs. Gandhi. Lalu Yadav was more than clear, exhorting his castemen. Later on, he talked of Mandal Raj too. It's so clear. And you remember his association with MY, some equation, M for Muslim and Y for Yadavas. The BJP had to change the strategy, and they did change the strategy. No less a person than Prime Minister himself, time and again, referring to his caste identity, extremely backward identity, and later on also using card of religion, 5% quota. So they changed this strategy. I don't know whether it worked in their advantage. I'm afraid this didn't work to their advantage. All that they could be able to do is to control the damage which was already done. Secondly, I agree with the previous panelist who said that caste is a reality here and caste has played a role. I would like to agree to this position that certain castes are highly mobilized. With due respect to everybody, I would say that Laluji has been able to get his castemen not only mobilized, rally behind him. And there is a clear indication that minority community has got mobilized because this election has a national context, as has been rightly pointed out. Let us not forget, it has a national dimension, not because Prime Minister is contesting the election, also because there is a national context and there is a national opposition to BJP and NDA government at the center. And I would even go to the extent that it has international ramifications. A person, ordinary person like me, a professor in the university, had to receive at least 3 delegations from Japanese, German and French embassy here in Patna. All eyes are here, and both sides have great stakes, but the stakes of the Prime Minister and BJP are much greater. If they lose, the fight inside BJP will grow more intense, and anti-BJP lobby in BJP will go stronger, and the fight between RSS and present dispensation of BJP leadership, Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, which is being reported, will also have a different dimension. So far Mahagathbandhan is concerned, if they lose, Lalu Yadav would have probably the last chance to survive, and Nitish Kumar's stature will be grossly diminished. And I'm sure that this election is not a state election only. It is a national. It has a national implications, and it will have its impact on Parliament through Rajya Sabha, as rightly been said, and it will have a bearing on reforms agenda of Government of India, and I'm sure this will have international implications as well.
All right, some interesting points there, of course, being made.
Yes.
And talking about just the Grand Alliance itself, did it come as a surprise to a lot of voters on the kind of bonhomie, the kind of chemistry that we actually saw between Nitish and Lalu? A lot of people were skeptical, really.
Yes.
Was that something that also may have actually brought in some votes in their favor, if at all?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And at least the bonhomie didn't surprise me, because they were together not only this time, in the past also, and they have reaped great dividends. Now, one or two very startling statistics, because people are now talking about casteism and voting going on communal lines. You'll be surprised to know, I was talking to one of my journalist friends, Mr. N.K. Singh, and he dished out these numbers. In 2014, when Mr. Modi was at his peak politically, voting-wise, they got 1 crore 4 lakh votes in Bihar. And this time in 2015, you know what's the number of Muslim voters? 1 crore 14 lakhs.
Okay.
Now, if it goes communal, and if even 50% of them vote, what will happen? Then, additionally, another 1.1 crore Yadavas, another 6% Koiris, 4% Kurmis. You add up these numbers, and then you don't have to conduct exit polls to know the results.
That is probably why Mr. Bhushan said, look at the numbers.
These are very startling numbers.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
So, presuming that voting has taken place on caste, communal lines, the result is already out. I don't have to say anything more. But in the morning, I got a very interesting piece which I read, bbchindi.com. You know what they said? They interviewed all the phoolwalas, flowers, and 80% of the flowers booked today for 8th done by Mahagathbandhan people, Grand Alliance people. Is there any...
Well, you see...
Does it indicate anything? I don't know.
No, it doesn't.
Again, they can also go wrong.
Yeah.
In the Delhi election, Mrs.
That's an
Sahay,
exit poll
the
in
BJP
itself.
had booked, BJP had booked more flowers and had got more
maybe
fireworks.
they go wrong.
Yeah.
But in 2014, I visited the Ashoka Road office of BJP, and laddus were being prepared 2 days in advance. That is also a fact.
Yes, absolutely. That's
In
why
2014.
when we started, we said that, see what happened in Delhi. So how do we actually take these exit polls that seriously? But very quickly, since we're coming to the end, I just want to very quickly also ask Mr.
Results were known well in advance. So, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Kumar, yeah?
Yes, Sanjay ji.
No, I was saying 2014 election shouldn't be compared with any other election, because 2014 election, the trends were known well in advance, 6 months before election. So we can't compare 2014 with other election. But one thing I wanted to add on the caste issue, when we say caste has come back in this election, it doesn't mean that only Dalits have been mobilized, only Yadavs have been mobilized, only Kurmis have been mobilized, or even only the EBC have been mobilized. This election has witnessed the sharpest mobilization of the upper caste in favor of BJP. So we should not equate caste mobilization as only
Sanjay, that is just
with the lower caste,
15%
that
of
the
the
lower caste
population.
mobilize and they vote on caste lines. Upper caste mobilization has been extraordinary in this election. This is what we can see happening during last couple of months.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for now because I'm running short of time. And on the 8th of November, of course, we'll be discussing all these points in detail. Of course, from 7 in the morning here on Rajya Sabha TV, we will be holding our special programming, of course, on counting day. And then, of course, we'll have to see what eventually the results are going to be. Thank you to all of you for joining me, gentlemen. And, is this going to be the result, of course, a referendum really on the centre. We'll have to eventually wait and see. But thanks so much for joining me on the big picture. And on the 8th, we'll eventually get the bigger picture. So do stay with us here on Rajya Sabha TV. Thank you.